This is RuggaMatrix International, episode 187, Sun Rises. Today, Peter Hewat's in the studio, talking Japanese rugby, Super Rugby and European rugby. It's all ahead. As always, RuggaMatrix is brought to you by Strike, Australia's leading provider of Bluetooth car kits and other handheld devices. Make sure you get your cradle today. If you get caught, it could cost you big time. Strike.com.au will give you 10% off if you enter the code RuggaMatrix on checkout. So make sure you look after your driving today. Check out strike.com.au. RuggaMatrix also brought to you by mybean.com.au. Coffee direct from the roaster to you, and they sell at roasters' prices. Hello and welcome to episode 187 of RuggaMatrix International, and it is called Sun Rises, and we will explain in detail what that means as Mark Cashman joins me. And Cash Cow, the Cash Cow Enterprises have been busy with the Major League Baseball in Sydney, 2 matches.
Opening series, Bronk, over 90,000 people went to see the baseball. The LA Dodgers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. But listen, we did the programs for them, and it was a great publishing success. Very proud. First step in the new venture, mate.
All right, very good indeed. And I've received an invoice from you too for another gig, and I think I'm going to have a bit of revenge there. So you might get paid in about 10 years' time. All right, let's go to the wide shot, and here he is, Peter Hewat. The H-bomb himself is joining us, coaching at Suntory now. Of course, the former Inverell fullback, didn't win a title, but I did. And, of course, Waratahs, Manly Marlins, and, everything else in between. Peter Hewat, thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me. What a great studio we have here, Bronk. Things have definitely changed since the last time I spoke to you.
Yeah, we have spruced it up, and you're a wide traveller around the world, so we thought we'd put on a fair display for you, because London Irish as well, I forgot to mention them, so we might talk a bit about what's happening in European rugby, because you've certainly played a lot of rugby all over the world, and I know your thoughts are in Japan at the moment in the coaching realm. Firstly, can you give us an update on one of our good mates, Eddie Jones, who had a stroke? And, this is just an amazing story, considering that we had Michael Liner, who not long ago had a stroke, Casho, and just recently confirmation that Pierre Wepu also had a stroke for the Auckland Blues, the All Blacks scrum half. So, Peter Hewat, what's the latest on our friend Eddie Jones?
Yeah, no, he's travelling well. I think it's going to take more than a stroke to keep Eddie Jones down.
You got that right.
As we all know, he's he's a strong guy, and it looks like he's going to make a full recovery. He's changed his lifestyle a little bit. He's doing his rehab every day. So he's taking it as a new start, as a new life, and He's still
a bit angry? You cranky?
No, he's all good. He's all good. But no, the best thing about it is he's going to make a full recovery.
That's great news.
Yeah,
exceptional news, isn't it, Cash Cow?
Absolutely, Huey. Just on the Eddie Jones front, has he still got that edge to him? He hasn't lost any of that analytical brain that he's renowned for, and he's he doesn't suffer fools even now, I'd imagine.
No, definitely not. He's definitely all over everything. He's still watching a lot of rugby from all over the world. Whether it be university rugby in Japan or the Premiership in London or the UK. So he definitely hasn't lost that edge to him, and he's always keeping us updated with what's happening around the world with rugby.
All right, so you're really busy in Japan. We're going to talk a bit more about Japan towards the end of the show, but first of all, I think you'd be one of the players or players in the game who'd be very interested in see what's happening in Europe, having been involved with London Irish, and it appears the deal that has been hanging around for some time now to re-energise the Heineken Cup through media deals is about to be done. So I guess the good news is that we'll have a competition going forward soon, and it's just, I guess, dotting some I's and crossing some T's. You've been going through it. What's the deal look like to you, Peter?
Yeah, well, from what I've read over the last couple of days, it's a massive deal. It's it's game changing. I heard the deal's somewhere around about over 104 million per year for 5 years. So I'm not big on maths, but it's about 520 million, which is a lot of money. And it makes everything that much bigger over there now. Obviously, the salary cap's bigger. The average salary is bigger. So it's going to be a real, I think, issue moving forward in terms of stopping players from going over to Europe.
And also, Huey, obviously, the French competition, the top 14, that's still chugging along very nicely. They're getting a lot of cash out of their particular TV deals, and also Japan. So there's a lot of rivalry for talent around the world. And listen, to be honest, I think one of the things that is going to work with Australian rugby about keeping our talent here is butting up with some of the Japanese leading teams, and having contracts that actually you get paid a certain amount in Japan, you come back here and play Super Rugby, a bit of Test Rugby, then head back to Japan, maximising incomes. Is that something that's being worked on by different clubs there in Japan at the moment?
I'm not sure whether it's actually being worked on by individual clubs, but you're getting more of it now, getting asked by players if they can obviously come over to Japan and then come back for the Super Rugby. You're getting a lot of players doing it now, but also it's going to come back to us keeping as many players as we can, us being Australia, and also with that sort of NRC competition, is making that a good competition, so we do get good development through all cycles of our play.
How important was it to the global game to get the European deal right? Because we always say the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, but you've experienced the game in the south and in the north. How important was this deal to happen? Would there have been significant ramifications for the world game if there was a stalemate, or we didn't have a Heineken Cup replacement?
Oh, 100%. I think, obviously, I've played in the Heineken Cup, and it's one of the best competitions in the world to play in. And I think if that was to be finished, I think it'd be a massive downturn and disaster for rugby over there. And I think we need, like obviously the Super Rugby, we need our best clubs playing in a competition to expand our game and to put our game on the world stage.
One of the things about the European deal, Huey, is the fact that it delves down. It's not just the top 20 teams that are going to be involved. There's another competition under that. That's drawing in a lot of the rugby talent from Eastern Europe. And as you know from your tours there with the Waratahs, Russia, a lot of those, Romania, a lot of those sort of areas are areas where rugby is really taking... Is big.
It was big there.
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very big.
TAR TV back in 2005.
I think I was over 100 kilos as well. I was very big.
But it's all enveloping, and it's good for the game on a number of fronts.
100%. Like you see more. You also see more of those countries now. Obviously playing well with the sevens. They're developing their game through that, and also their players are getting more experience in that Europe culture. So I think if they're sort of playing more in Europe and there's more teams and more funds to send them to Europe, well, the game's going to expand, and it's only going to be good for our game if it's expanding.
Well, Peter, let's look ahead to the action this weekend in the quarterfinals. A couple of blockbusters coming up there, and a team that's been impressive over recent years, Ulster. Must be very. I know Kissy's very impressed with the way they've been travelling recent times against Saracens. I think if you look at all the matches, Leicester Tigers, they're always there, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Munster, of course.
Well, you look at the four quarterfinals, and they're pretty much the same teams are there year in, year out. You've got Munster and Toulouse, Clermont and Leicester, Ulster and Saracens, and as you said, Toulon and Leinster. They're massive clubs.
These are the big clubs, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they represent Europe well.
Exactly. And if you look over the history, those 8 clubs have been there pretty much a lot of the time, and they're four massive games. Who do you think's going to win it? It's tough to go. For me, it's tough to go past Toulon again. Like, you look at their squad. You look at their squad on paper. They've got world class players from 1 to say 28.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
32,
Yeah.
36.
So in terms of depth and quality, it's hard to go past Toulon for me.
Home ground advantage is vital in all these things. Look at that the fortress up at Ravenhill there for Ulster, and Kissy mentioned the replacement for Brian O'Driscoll could well be a Kiwi Bronc. I'm getting the feeling, Jared Payne.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so interesting thoughts there. So obviously he's going to be on show there at Ulster, but listen, I think all those home teams heavily favoured to win their quarterfinals.
Yeah, of course, and you did mention Leinster and Munster, the powerhouses of Irish rugby, just representing again. I think this time of the year is really important to then assess how you are getting through the year physically. We talked to Rocky a couple of weeks ago about how you manage your players. Now, if we go down south now and watch where the Waratahs got absolutely bashed by the Sharks at the weekend, they're in a difficult position now. They've got to play the Stormers this weekend, and backing up after a game like that so early in the season, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of test matches to play, so some of these players are going to be, Ted said, brutalised. I mean, how do you think they will be feeling physically now, given the fact they've had a really good off-season, but they are now heading into the second leg of their South African series and under the pump too?
Yeah, well, obviously this part of the season, you're not gonna have a lot of gains. You're not gonna make a lot of gains in the gym and on the rugby field. You're sort of just teetering things a little bit, sort of from week to week, depending on who you're playing. And in the gym, and you just got to try and keep guys as fresh and sparked up as best as you can, because you're not going to get massive. You're not going to get PBs in the gym. So all that work, all the hard work in the gym and on the running track's being done in the preseason. So the best thing now is to try and keep guys sparked up and as fresh as they can be for the game on Saturday.
But it's harder when your head gets taken off. And I know Rob Horn's attack on Franz Steyn was pretty blatant. But also I thought the worst tackle was Steyn on Kurtley Beale. He got him on the merry-go-round, and you're really helpless in that situation. What do you reckon that's worth in terms of punishment?
I think it's, as you say, it's one of the worst, because you've got no control whatsoever. You're pretty much...
It's like a speed tackle, really,
exactly,
isn't it?
in the air, no control, and as you can see, Kurtley's sort of head flung back and hit the ground. It's not a good look, and he had plenty of time to pull out of that tackle. So I'm not a commissioner, but
well, the unfortunate thing about the whole thing is the commissioner gave Franz Steyn an off-field yellow card, and Rob Horn got 1 week, which to me, on both fronts, seems a bit light on, to be honest. I thought Rob might be on the sidelines for 3, maybe 4 weeks. His record's pretty good, but listen, that was a pretty clear hit on the melon, and as you guys were saying, that tackle on Kurtley was dangerous. It was reckless, and it was dangerous. It was premeditated, which brings us to the targeting of Kurtley Beale that's gone on from about round 1 this year. It really is pretty hard on him, and listen, he could be knocked out of the game within the next month or two, really.
Yeah, we were talking about this today, Peter, and I said that I've already been through this from a media point of view with Stephen Larkham, and I know Rod McQueen was trying to get the message out there all the time. It would be better if he actually stood up for the player in the press rather than trying to get other people to do it. But Stephen Larkham was constantly hit off the ball. I'm not saying Kurtley Beale's being hit constantly off the ball illegally, but he is being targeted. Pat McCabe got him in a special in Canberra, and of course Morné Steyn, as we just talked about, sorry, not Morné Steyn, but Franz Steyn, got him in South Africa. And clearly they're unsettling him. Peter, are you seeing this, and are you surprised that the teams are targeting Kurtley Beale in this way?
Definitely not surprised. You always want to target your opposition's best players, and if you can sort of put them off their game, well, you go.
It's all worked at the weekend.
Exactly. You can see it in rugby league now with teams sort of targeting the Burgess brothers. You hear about that all the time now. So
there's a bit of chat there as well.
But it's every coach, every team talks about it. Who's their best player? You target them, and if it's a 9-wheel Genia, they're all getting pressure. So it's definitely not surprising to me. But What is surprising is some of the lateness of the hits.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, it's fair enough if you're going to target a player and monster him, but if it becomes a dangerous play and constant dangerous play that's not being picked up, then you've got a real problem. The officials have to clamp down on it. And I think the other thing is, it really hampers the Waratahs' attack when they've got a second playmaker at 12.
Yep.
But you know how that drives a team and how you structure a team. If he is no longer a viable option there, their attack stutters.
Exactly. Well, if you haven't got, well, Kirtley, as you say, is a second ball player. So if you lose him, you haven't got that sort of the same player to come in. You've been training all week with your second ball player, and if you lose him, you bring another player in hasn't got the same abilities as Kirtley does. Well, it sort of just mucks your whole game plan up, and teams understand that and are targeting him.
If he gets cut down at that channel, it's a tough channel, isn't it? I mean, Nathan Gray played it for years, so he's a smart fellow, you know him very, very well as a Marlins boy, that he'd be working on maybe on Kirtley's approach as well, mentally as well in that channel, because you've got to really be switched on, haven't you?
Yeah, if there's one guy that can help Kirtley mentally, it's Nathan Gray. He's, as you know, he's one of the most mentally strong players to play the game. So I know Nathan's been working closely with Kirtley, and I think he's understanding now that that 12 position is tough.
How do you, Casho, before you just want to keep going that line, then if the refs aren't fixing it, how do you fix it as a team?
It's a good question, because you don't have control about what the opposition's doing. Obviously, in defence, obviously I think they've been defending sometimes at the back, but in attack, there's not much you can really do, because if you get hit late, you get hit late. You can't play around that. Maybe if you play away from him early, get him into the game in other ways. But it's difficult to plan, because you don't understand what the other team are trying to do. And you've got no control over what they're trying to do.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about the way the Aussie teams are going? The Tars sort of first up. They've brought together quite a good game plan at this stage of the season. Looks like they can add on a few nuts and bolts to it too. Yeah,
look, the Australian Conference is the strongest I've seen it since all four teams have been involved. Obviously, you've got the Brumbies and the Waratahs going well, but you've also got the Rebels and the Force are surprising a lot of teams. It's surprising me in the way they're playing and the victories they're getting. Look, for me, I think still the Brumbies and obviously the Reds as well. Can't forget the Reds, but I think for me it's the two teams. I think the Brumbies and the Waratahs will be up there come sort of the finals time. Brumbies have added to what they've created in the last few years under Steve Larkham. Now they're probably a bit more expansive, but they've also got that hard edge to them. Probably which they didn't have last week. Well, they had it for the first 20 minutes, but then switched off. But they got that edge through Laurie Fisher with their set piece. So I think they combine, the set piece strategy and Steve Larkham's, expansive play. I think they're going to be there or thereabouts. And the Waratahs, I think, from what they've done over the pre-season, they're saying all the right things, and they've come out the first 3 weeks. Obviously, last week was a bit of a mishap, but their first 3 games were pretty good. 3 or 4 games were pretty good, I thought.
I caught up with for 7 Israel Folau at the airport before he left, and he said he was 80%. He took a hit on the throat, couldn't quite talk. He said there was some fractured cartilage in his throat as well. So he is worried if he cops another hit there that it will aggravate the injury and could end up being a lot worse. But he can talk now, so everything should be okay. But gee, they missed him. They missed him terribly.
They missed. Obviously, they got a lot of spark and pace in their attack, but they've got that. He's got X factor. You need X factor to win those games. Someone to turns
nothing into something.
Nothing into something.
Well, you're right. Is he the best X factor player in the world today?
Oh, he's got to be up there. He's got to be up there. You can just give the early ball to him, and he's going to create something for you. He scored 8 tries in 4 games. So you take that out of your team, and you got to try and find to score points from other areas, and they probably struggle to do that on the weekend.
No, he's going to smash your record. Is your record under threat? What is it? Do you remember it?
10 or something. He'll smash my record. I think he'll. If he stays fit, he'll beat the whole competition
try scoring record. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
And for him to actually take that record, I think Kirtley's got to stay on the field, really, doesn't he? Because he does work a lot in those channels.
Well, don't they?
Just those inside channels there, you're drawing the defence a little bit apart, and Israel Folau, hopefully he doesn't finish up with a voice like Darren Lockyer, but you never know. The hit on the throat, but listen, they're working together really well.
And I think that's another good point, Cash. I think that's a good out for Kirtley. So if he gets in a bit of trouble, he's always got Israel on the outside to get him out of tricky situations. So I think that Kirtley sort of missed Israel on the weekend.
Yeah, that's definitely right.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that combination is that if they can develop it even more over the coming weeks, it becomes an option then for Australia.
Yeah, agree, definitely.
I mean, how would you see them develop? Like Kirtley at 12 is something we've not really thought about. We're not talked about it that detail.
No, we haven't. I'm not sure in terms of obviously international rugby, and I didn't play international rugby, but from what I've seen, it's obviously a step up in physicality. So I'm not sure how Kirtley would cope with the extra physicality at 12.
Yeah.
But obviously, if he keeps performing, he'd definitely be a viable option there.
This might toughen him up though. I mean, he's got to come through this some way, and if you look at it in the positive light, he might come through this as a harder player, a bit more of an edge to it. I mean, how did you respond when you copped, the physical stuff?
Yeah, obviously, it does. Probably gives you a bit of a.
I know you went looking for it.
Oh, I loved it. But obviously, if you get hit a few times, it's definitely gonna toughen you up, and you sort of start changing your training program just to get more hits into you. And as you've seen with Quade Cooper, that extra boxing work, it's sort of. He's become a bit more physical, just getting used to the hits. And
hasn't he come along, just all of his life, he got rid of some of the distractions around the edges, and he's really matured into a decent worker on and off the field.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you follow him on Instagram or Twitter, and he's always out working. He's always training.
He's always talking about training, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he is. He's it's totally different. Person from 2 or 3 years ago, where he obviously was in a little bit of no man's land there, but he seemed to have got back on track, and obviously he's got a strict regimen in terms of his training and diet, and obviously I think the boxing's helped with his discipline and whatnot. And I think he's just a different player.
Yeah, a little bit self-absorbed at times, I think, a couple of years back, but definitely not now. With the Reds though, Huey, I just feel something's missing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, totally agree, Cash. I just watched them on the weekend, and they just seem to be, for me, they've lost that sort of spark they had when they won the competition. Obviously they rely heavily on Will and Quade to create something, but when they don't create anything, it sort of looks like they've got nothing else to go back to. So they just look a little bit flat and sort of one-dimensional at the moment. And hopefully they can fix it. But also they're missing a lot of players as well. They're missing a few midfielders and back three players, which can add that little bit of spark for them. But they just seem to be sort of in second or third gear at the moment.
Yeah. The other thing is, I thought the Rebels did a good job to win that game against the Brumbies, but I thought the Brumbies were poor for their standards. So much so that if you were following Laurie Fisher on social media, you would have noticed that he tweeted a shot at about 4 a.m. walking past the casino. Did you see that? Taking his punt there. So it obviously hit him hard because he's really passionate about the contact. He loves the contact area. And I think they got schooled there, and it just looked like the Brumbies. You don't want to say blokes don't put in every game, but there is a certain element of maybe just not sharp enough on the night, not focused enough. And the Rebels, to their credit, took advantage of it and came from behind and won the game. Won the game with a bit of style, actually, too.
Yeah, sometimes they scored an early try early, and it was quite easy. It was a first play try, and sometimes when that happens
a lot.
Guys just switch off. They think it's going to be an easy game, and you only have to be off, a couple % in those games, and it's going to come back to bite you. So I think, they started really well. The Brumbies, they're all on the front foot. They got an easy try. I think maybe a few of the guys just dropped back a gear. And, the Rebels hung in there, kicked their penalties. and scored some good tries to come away with the victory.
What is the key about getting up for a game that maybe's not as, hasn't got that edge or sexiness to it of, say, like a Munster to North, Manly or whatever,
Gordon.
Yes, all that
That's
sort of stuff.
Sexy game.
What do you say to the guys in the lead up to that? Is it a different attitude? Is it about pride in your performance? What is it?
Yeah, to me, in those games that you think, I suppose, you're supposed to win, and you think that are probably a little bit easier than others, you've got to challenge guys individually rather than as a team, and give them goals that they have to achieve. I think, in terms of, if you speak about the whole picture with the whole group, you tend to get guys switching off. But I think if you speak to guys individually and give them certain roles and goals for those games, everyone's going to get up for a big game. But as you say, the littler games, you need to target and challenge guys individually to get them up for those games.
And it's so hard to be up for 20 weeks in a row, really. You can't.
You can't be in fifth gear every game. So you obviously got to, work this guy and that guy, and that's when your whole squad attitude comes in. If you see a guy sort of getting tired, you maybe give him a spell, or because your reserve guy's always going to be chomping at the bit to get in there. So that's when you got to look at your squad and freshen guys up when you see it.
And just on that fifth gear for the whole year, you can't even be at fifth gear for a game. So in your fledgling coaching career, have you worked out how to, Ewan used to talk about high attrition games, where you use up too much energy to win the game, where you could actually have done it at 80% of times, just to make sure that there's a long game here to be played, so you can't just burn yourself out. You learning how to use your bench and your players effectively, so you're not just going 100% all the time, because you're going to burn yourself out.
That's exactly right. So you got to look at it as you look at your starting 15. And if you see what's going to be better for your team, is your starting 15 at 70% or your reserve guy at 100%. And most times it's going to be your reserve guys, because he's going to bring you energy, and he's obviously keen and eager to play well. So you've just got to look at it as a squad thing, and that's what's important of having a good, strong squad and having depth in your squad.
Huey, back onto the Waratahs. One of the guys that I think has done superbly, consistently well this year is Adam Ashley Cooper at 13. I think he's had an outstanding year, and he was one of the standouts from on the weekend when the going was pretty tough out there, wasn't it? Very confrontational defence. Yeah,
it was one of the more physical games I've watched in a while, and I thought his ball carries were really strong. He always got over the gain line. He's always going to be. You can rely on Adam Ashley Cooper just to do his job. And that's obviously why he's sort of played at the top level for so long. Coaches have confidence in him. The players around him have confidence in him. He's just a good, solid player. You know what you're going to get with Adam Ashley Cooper, and they're worth their weight in gold when selecting teams.
Yeah, he certainly is. Now, we've talked about some of the teams in the competition. Have you been paying much attention to the Super Rugby while in Japan?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we always looking for ideas and for talent, and we watch it very closely.
What have you noticed? We talked earlier in the year about trends, Casho, but a couple of matches in, any trends you see developing in the game that might kick on to later in the year as well? I
think teams now are skillful from 1 to 15. Like you're seeing now, especially with the New Zealand teams, everyone can catch pass. Everyone can run good lines. You're seeing front rowers making, running good lines, line breaks, catch pass. I think it's sort of going, our skill level is going to another level, and I think that's where, Australia can take their game as well. We've sort of been brought up with.
I think the Waratahs have enhanced their skill level in the forward play, like you're talking about, like the Chiefs. You watch the Chiefs; it's just amazing. Like blokes who played in Casho's position are just nimble. Just the ball through the hands. It led to so many tries.
Yeah.
But, I think the Waratahs, you've got to give the coaching staff credit there. They've upskilled their forward interplay during the match to be the equal, I think, of many All Blacks.
Well, I think that's what's good. Like, as you say, interplay is a good word, because they can create. The forwards can create so much. Like obviously, they or taught to come in the corner and hit the defence really hard with their ball carries, but sometimes they come around just a little deft pass. That's easy gain line. When defenders don't expect, say who we got. Tatafu pulling out of pass, little soft hands.
The Canberra game was a great example of that. I know that the Brumbies won the match, but the Waratahs really, I mean, tactically, Ewan always wanted to go to Canberra and play a real dour game. But the Waratahs went there and took them on, and they came close. They had a big rally towards the end. But what I was really excited about was that the Waratahs forwards really ignited the game and forced the Brumbies defenders to defend unbelievably well because every guy could offload.
Well, you got to force the defence to make decisions. So that if you're coming around the corner just one out, they're not making decisions. So it's pretty much who's the stronger. But if you come around the corner with options and you're making the defence make decisions, I think that's a big bonus. I think, as you say, the Waratahs are growing on that. You see the Brumbies have sort of brought that into their play a little bit. And all the New Zealand sides, the Chiefs do it very well. And probably no surprise why they're champions the last couple of years.
Huey, one of the things we've seen in Super Rugby this year is the emergence of a few really quality Japanese players. The halfback at the Highlanders, the reserve hooker for the Rebels. Yep. Those guys. Are we going to see more of that?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I know Eddie's very keen to get as many the Japanese players to come out and play Super Rugby. I definitely think the players in Japan are developing really well, and I think it's also good if they do come out. As you see, they haven't sort of they've given the Japanese rugby a good name by coming out here and playing. They haven't let anyone down. And their performances have spoken for themselves.
Love the halfback.
Yeah, he's very good. No, he's both the halfback and the hooker changed. They won the championship with Panasonic this year, and they're quality players. And obviously you got Malesau out here now as well for the Rebels, who's I think a world class centre. I think he really can be. I've watched him. He plays for Yamaha in Japan, but some of his footwork and ability to break the line and carry through the line is really good. I know Eddie's got big raps on him.
And has Eddie got big raps on your coaching, mate? Because I did ask him that a while back, and he was really impressed with your transition, because it's not easy for a guy to stop playing 1 minute and become a coach the next. We've spoken to guys, and it is difficult.
Yeah, it was probably more difficult than I thought as well. Coming in or finishing last year, just as you say, starting coaching straight away, there was probably still an exclamation mark from going from playing to coaching. But now, probably 6 months in, there's definitely a full stop there now. You think at training sometimes you're still playing, but now I fully understand that, and I fully realise that I'm finished and that I love coaching, and it's obviously always learning, and I learned a lot this year as well, like being my first year, but I loved every minute of it.
What's your biggest blunder? Can you tell us?
Biggest blunder?
Well, as a coach, did you try and come in the big man and tell the boys what to do?
No. Biggest blunder.
Give us something, mate.
I can't say I had a massive blunder, but look, there's things you're learning every day. I was lucky enough, obviously, to play with the guys, so I've got a good relationship with them. I know their strengths and weaknesses as players. That was probably a bonus in playing with them, but then it's also trying to separate yourself from them as your friends and teammates to sort of.
I think that's the difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially with the older guys, it was a bit more difficult. But
Huey, the personal transition is difficult to go from something that's enveloped your life for the best part of 20 or so years to do it professionally, to do it very well, to have the accolades on the field. When the cheering dies, it can be hard. And we've had a chat to a guy this week, haven't we, Matt Dunning, regarding the transition from being a professional footballer to just a guy who's out there in the street in many ways.
Yeah, it was difficult. Just giving up what a lot of people would consider a pampered lifestyle, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I mean this by your food's looked after, your accommodation, your kit. You never had to buy anything. Like Ewan never bought any clothes, and just wore his kit around everywhere.
Are you saying he buys clothes now?
No. They only close his ball with those camouflage pants
He loved those.
and the
didn't he?
Harley tee.
Harley tee.
Did he actually pay for? I don't know. If he wouldn't have paid for that.
Wouldn't have for Harley tee.
Contra.
Gee, that was a sight. So, and Ewan's in charge of the clothing. So, but you get
Are the
everything.
Wallabies, are the Wallabies wearing that this year in gold? Or?
Oh, no, it was pretty funny though. Ewan was wearing his number ones at the Super Rugby launch. He ran into Greg Growden, and Grado said, "Where'd you dust off that old number?" And Ewan goes, "Oh, mate, it said number ones." Oh, well, sorry. So Ewan didn't take that well. He just slapped around because the new number ones look pretty ordinary. But we had some pretty good kit nowadays. You used to strut around pretty good.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, nice. I love the little bits and
What
pieces.
do you wear? What happens in Japan? They
No.
dress up,
Yeah, love it. We're
suit up.
Suit up.
Mm.
Yeah, nice little Dunhill suits. So we're looked after
nice.
there, and obviously Adidas look after us as well. So we're looked after very well, which is good. Nice and tight.
But Huey, just
Tailored.
back to the
Tailored.
question after getting railroaded there by
Yeah.
the Bronx. Like there's almost a period of mourning in many cases after the footy finishes, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I was lucky because I suppose I got straight into it, so I didn't have time to sit back and reflect as such. But it's definitely hard. Like as a player, all you got to worry about is getting yourself right to turn up on Saturday. If you're right mentally, hopefully that you've done it, and we go as a team. But now I've got to sort of concentrate on getting 30 guys mentally right and looking after 30 guys, rather than just looking after myself. And that's the challenge, because everyone's different. I have to treat you differently than what I treat you.
I hope so.
Because you're maybe a bit more sensitive.
Big dog.
Big dog, little dog.
But no, it's something I've knew that I was probably going to get into the last few years of my career, and that's why one of the reasons I chose Suntory to learn and work under Eddie and pick up some of his skills. And then my last sort of year or two of playing in Japan, I was doing a little bit of coaching anyway with our younger guys. So look, it's something that I love, and I love footy. So it's been great to sort of diverse into coaching.
So, have you picked up all of Eddie's habits then? Stink eye?
I haven't picked up any of his not his early morning. He's an early riser and a late finisher. I try and sort of.
Eddie gets up at 5 o'clock and then he just gets on the cycle and trundles.
Yeah,
trundles. I have no idea if they ever helped him.
He loved his trundle and his exercise bike. But no, I haven't. I've picked
But
up.
what are the good things that you'd pick up out of a coach like Eddie?
Oh, obviously his attention to detail is by far. I haven't seen anyone else like it ever. So just little things. He texts me about a game and I'll text him back and he say, "Oh, you should look at this." And then he goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." Just obviously he's seen a lot of rugby. He's coached a lot of rugby. Just to have that experience to sort of ask questions. It's just you can't ask for anything more than that.
To tell us a bit about Japan, preparations for Rugby World Cup after the next cycle in England. How's it all going? Is it the forefront there in a lot of people's minds?
Probably in the rugby community, yeah. I think they're building in the right direction. Definitely, also the actual team are developing well under Eddie. Eddie's got a good core group of players now that he'll probably take through to that World Cup. He's got a really good S&C program under John Pryor. So, they're becoming stronger, they're becoming bigger, quicker, so they can sort of start to match it now physically with other teams. The style of rugby that Eddie plays is, attractive and it's a good style of rugby. So I think going forward, I know it's a while away, but, they're heading in the right direction. And I know the rugby community are starting to sort of get excited about hosting the World Cup.
It's interesting that Eddie Jones, decided that I'm going to see Japan all the way through, and whether it was just going to be, just flogging a dead horse, so to speak, where you're just going to compete and not really challenge. Can Japan actually challenge the first tier nations? And I say that knowing that, remember in the World Cup in 2003 in Australia, they were pretty impressive, and that was 10 years ago, getting close to 10 years ago. So can they, as you say, they're getting physically better, some players are coming as Super Rugby, can they challenge by the time the next World Cup rolls around in Japan?
I think that's the goal. Obviously, the next World Cup will probably be a World Cup too early, but I think the World Cup in Japan, I think that's obviously what they're targeting in terms of a really, really good performance. And as I said, if they keep developing the way they're developing now, I think they're a strong chance. And you can see Eddie's obviously he's playing more bigger teams, or he's playing the All Blacks, he's playing Wales, so he's attracting these type of teams to give his group of players that he's got now experience, and that's exactly what they've got to understand where they're at so they can improve. And Eddie's doing that really well. And I think if anyone's going to do it, Eddie will do it.
Can I ask you about a couple of players? The news that broke today, we were just about to set up record with Andrew Fafita not going to the Bulldogs in Rugby League, his contract not going through, and he was quoted the weekend saying that he wished he'd signed with rugby. I mean, if you look at a guy like him who had a bit of a rugby background as a kid, wonderful ball-playing player, what are your thoughts about him if he wanted to make a fist of it in rugby? I know Ewan was keen.
Yeah, well, just watching the way he plays, I think he'd be a welcome addition to rugby. He's saying all the right things. He's played rugby before. He obviously wants to come back and play rugby. But just his style, I think, as you say, his ball carrying is second to none. He seems to do it for 80 minutes in rugby league. So I think you obviously have to make some adjustments, but I think he'd be a good addition to rugby.
All right, so what about Benji Marshall playing with the Blues? And we've talked about this. I was critical of the Blues for throwing him at 10 and trying to push him through at 10. And even Falau, when they spoke after their trial game, said, mate, you probably should play at 15 and see how it goes. So is that sort of reduced, in your opinion, being an expert in both positions, that he may have retarded his development in the Super Rugby transfer from league to union, reduced his capability to make an impact earlier?
I think so. Yeah, I think the easiest position to play is 15.
Now, don't say that. Hey, guns can play 15.
But it all unfolds in front of you, so
Yeah.
you get to sit back and just watch everything unfold. Attack, you can come into the game when you want. Defence, you're obviously at the back, you watch everything. I think 10's very hard. I think 12's probably another position where it's probably after 15 where you could probably slot into, but I'm not sure physically whether he's up to that. 13's difficult to play. It's the hardest place to defend. And wing, you're always involved in blind wing, open wing. So there's a lot to think about there. I think 15 is pretty much where you're going to be first phase every time. You just sit back, come into the game, and then in and out of the game when you see fit. And you can just learn. Everything happens in front of you.
So having said that, if he gets to play a bit more game time there, do you think he's going to nail it?
I think he's got potential to, yeah. I think, obviously, he was thrown into the deep end a little bit, thrown into 10, and they obviously hoped that he would have picked it up quicker than he has. But I think if they just took their time, giving him time at 15, he might be able to be seeing, the fruits of labour now. He can probably jump into 10 now, but he's sort of maybe mentally now struggling in terms of what am I supposed to be doing here? Whereas if you just gave him a spot, stay at 15, learn your trade, and then we'll put you in the front line when we see fit.
Yeah.
Just back on the Fafita idea, and we spoke about this a bit early in the show about a Japanese club tag teaming with the Super Rugby team. Are you expecting a text from Eddie saying, mate, get down to Cronulla and have a chat with this bloke for me?
I think, it's probably more above my head in terms of recruitment. But no.
I think he lives out of Belmore.
Does he?
Yeah, so yeah, go that way, mate.
Bulldogs are pretty happy with him. No, look, yeah, I'd say there's definitely options over there for him. I don't think we're talking to him, but that'd be silly for them not to have a look at him. As I said, he'd be quite damaging if he picked up, the little breakdown skills and the scrum and line out skills, but his ball carrying and general mobility would be very handy.
Because you are looking for someone to replace Georgie Smith.
We are.
That's a big hole in any roster.
Big hole it is. You're right. More ways than one.
Yeah.
Well, the other guy who's going to make a highly anticipated conversion is Sam Burgess. going to Bath and probably play for England, and might have a lash at making the 2015 World Cup. I think he'll make it because he's just an unbelievable talent who, when he's given the opportunity, can become a bit of a ball player as well. Les Kiss was on the show a few weeks ago saying that he'd probably play him at 12. I probably agree with that. Your thoughts, forwards or backline?
I think eventually he'll be in the back row. Excuse me. I think I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough of him play, but I'm not sure whether he's got the speed and actual. I know he's got an offload game, but
it's not bad.
In terms of his passing game,
you don't see it as much as you probably would like, but he has got it.
I read a report that they're trying to make him. They said that they want him to play back row now. Is that correct or?
Well, I think they'd like him to, but you know what happens when you get over and into the environment. You have a look at him, and maybe they'll change their minds. But
well, his best attribute is he's a competitor. He wants to win. Everything he does, he wants to win. So if he's carrying the ball, you can just see that in him. He wants to win. If someone runs at him, he wants to
destroy them.
One of the things with all these guys is don't expect miracles straight away, because rugby is a lot more complicated game. Rugby league its simplicity is one of its beauties, its strength in many cases, and there's a lot more nuances. Even the different way that you tackle guys in rugby, you tackle them in different ways in different situations, and passing's different. So
that's one of the hardest things to get onto. And Benji talked about that, and his alignment. He said in that trial game that he thought he was too flat, but I actually thought he was too deep. But I think he mixed up his idea of the flatness part of it, because he was thinking about the defensive line coming up so quickly. But you actually have to engage that. You've got to be up there and take it on. And I think that's why it was difficult for him. I just think it was a wasted opportunity, because I think Benji by now could have been giving us some noise like Israel Folau. Like Folau playing at fullback allowed him to settle into the game, as you talked about, and absolutely destroy it. There is no one, and he's forced teams, and you look at this in your calculations as a coach, when you look at an opposition, no one now is brave to put the ball up, because they know he's going to take it and hit it hard and probably score at the other end.
He's the best in the world at taking the high ball.
Isn't he amazing? Isn't
Unbelievable.
Well, you think, don't kick it to him.
You're wasting your time, mate.
Yeah,
normally it's a 50-50, but with him it's sort of...
Well, that single guy is changing strategies then for the opposition, who maybe like to kick it.
We hear the Reds when they play the Waratahs, how they're talking about not kicking to him. It's impossible not to kick to someone. Like you're gonna find him either way. You kick to the winger, he gives him an early pass. Like, it's very difficult not to find someone when you kick the ball to them. Yeah,
exactly. Thoughts on how a couple of our old mates are going? Ben Robinson, he's been in and out of the side, but has responded as he's been used to before. I mean, I know he's been given the rough end of the pineapple a few times, even by Ewan McKenzie, but he's responded. Is Ben Robinson still going to be a force?
You think so? I think, as I spoke to you about before, with the way that the game's going, like he's got that nice. He's a good runner. He can catch pass.
Beautiful pass.
So I think he gives that he gives you that aspect to the game. In terms of set piece and scrummaging, you're probably talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, he's got to be one of the best loosies to scrummage.
Well, he certainly made a difference when he came on against the Rebels, and he did scrum well against the Springbok pack on the weekend, didn't he?
Well, amazingly, Cachet did well against the Lions and got dropped afterwards.
Yeah.
We're still scratching our heads over. Link, what are you doing? Team's always better with Cat in it. You got to have the Cat on the side. Right?
Well, you've got to have him definitely in the side after match. He's always got something nicely lined up, nice little wine bar.
Given what you saw the weekend from the Sharks, are they your number one team in the Southern Hemisphere? Or Chiefs?
I think the Chiefs are still up there. I think it's going to come down to there's two teams in every conference that I think will go to the end. You got the Chiefs and the Blues, I think, from New Zealand. I think you got the Waratahs and the Brumbies from Australia, and you've got the Sharks and Bulls from South Africa who are going to fight it out for those spots. I can't really see anyone other than those six teams winning.
And I think essential is to finish 1-2, which is what Michael Checker from Waratah's perspective has said. got to finish 1-2 so we get the rails run through the finals. That's going to be absolutely critical. Could you imagine playing the Sharks
Oh dear.
at home in a final? It would be
Yeah.
horrendous.
And there was a fair bit of chat too there from
Was it
Jake White, chipping him afterwards.
Yes.
So he loves that banter, Jake White. I actually think the Brumbies are still the number one team in Australia, and I say that because what I saw in their game against the Hurricanes and also against the Waratahs was a bit of the classic Brumbies of old, very well drilled, and the defence was outstanding against New South Wales. And I think I'm looking forward to catching up with him in a couple of weeks' time, Casho, when we go to Canberra and see Pat McCabe, because he's been amazing. Pat McCabe was, for all intents and purposes, finished, but he's going out there and he's smashing blokes.
One thing about Paddy McCabe this year that I've noticed is he's actually distributing the ball a lot more now. So before he was just a hard runner, direct runner, and he'd get you out of the game line. But now he's developed his passing game. So it's, as I said before, it's sort of keeping that defence in two minds. I think obviously he's worked with one of the best passers to ever play the game in Steve Larkham. So
and credit there, Huey, because when I went down pre-season at the end of last year, that rainy day, we did a story on Stephen Larkham and Laurie Fisher about their coaching setup, because it is a unique one. It's basically two co-coaches of the side, and they're making it work, which is a really interesting prospect. But Pat McCabe in that session was playing fly half, so late last year they were seeding possibilities of Paddy McCabe being a bit more of a distributor as well. So not only did they try it, but it's actually working.
Yeah, no, it is.
Which says something about your skill development doesn't end after you finish school, really, does it? You've got to work on it constantly. Look at the good teams. The Randwicks of old. What did they used to play? Touch football, just pass the ball through the hands. They used to do a drill which involved a raw egg, and if you drop the egg, you had to do laps around the oval, all that sort of stuff. It was all skill development, and it never stops, nor should it.
So, and given that, Peter, when because Eddie was famous for the regimented training, and I know Japan, they like training sometimes better than playing. It's that you got to put in. How have you managed to convince your players that you've got to win these games and get the right mix of flogging yourselves at training and then performing on game day?
Yeah, I suppose from my point of view, Suntory, through Eddie.
So what's the structure there now, coaching wise?
Well, there's obviously a head coach who worked under Eddie. He was a forward coach under Eddie, who's the head coach. There's myself, another forwards coach, and a defensive coach. And obviously we've got 3 S&C guys as well. But
so how then do you because it's a cultural thing in Japan about training hard.
Yep. As I said, luckily we've had Eddie. He set the program up probably 4 or 5 years ago, and he set it up to run like a Super Rugby program. So we don't actually hear obviously the horror stories of teams training for 2 or 3 hours. Well, through Eddie we trained.
Did you experience that in the early days?
No, I missed it.
No, because it was all at Suntory.
Yeah,
but other clubs had that.
Yeah, so Eddie's got it running very, very well, and like a Super Rugby program. So he sort of, when Eddie moved on, the new coach just sort of pretty much kept
Who's
running.
the coach?
Ockable. Yeah.
What's he standing in the game over there?
He is the first professional rugby union player in Japan. He actually played for Southland. Played over 100 caps for Suntory.
Yeah,
so he's a bit of a Suntory legend.
Yeah.
He learned his trade under Eddie.
Yeah.
And he's now sort of taken over the reins. So, look, it's difficult, but because you got to pretty much tell the guys to get off the field rather than come and train, which is a good thing. Yeah. But it's also sometimes.
You mentioned Panasonic winning the comp last season. How are Suntory placed this year? Are you better? What's going to be the go?
Yeah, well, look, we've won the championship, not previous 3 years. So, it was a bit of an eye opener for us as well, losing the final this year. Obviously, it showed us some points that we need to change and that we need to evolve and add to our game. Obviously, the more you win, the more teams are going to look at you and study you. So you've got to actually change with the times as well. And we're probably caught a little bit short there this year. So we'll sort of go back and add things to our game, which will take us to another level and hopefully return us to number one.
And Sonny Bill's back in the game next year too, and he'll probably just pick up where he left off.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him the other day as well. He's in good condition as well, isn't he?
Unbelievable. The Major League Baseballs are out, and they just God damn, look at this guy. And when they had a photo shoot with the Roosters, and
it was a photo shoot that probably got so much airtime. It was just there was Sonny Bill Williams, Alessandro Del Piero.
Yeah, well, I think basically it was
a bit of a double booking for Israel. Yeah,
there was no Israel. There was no opportunity for the Waratahs to be there, so they desperately wanted to be there. But with now Israel Folau, they basically said no. Which is a shame because that photo travelled everywhere.
Yeah, it was massive. It
was on the front page of New York Times, the LA Times.
If you hadn't seen it, they had the 2 Major League Baseball games here in Australia. So we had the Diamondbacks, as Casho said, and the
LA Dodgers.
And the photo shoot was the players, of course, Alessandro Del Piero. So there's no need to explain who he is in the world of football. Of course, Sonny Bill Williams.
Clayton Kershaw from the best pitcher in the world at the moment for the LA Dodgers, and Paul Goldschmidt, pretty close to MVP for the Diamondbacks.
And of course Adam Goods from the Sydney Swans.
Absolutely,
so just and they're all kitted up in their proper playing kit. So, but yeah, Sonny Bill was the one that he was the one who attracted most attention, especially when he had that bat in his hands. But he was a game changer too, wasn't he? Because he was just popping the ball out like that everywhere, and no one could defend it.
Well, you obviously speak to your blind wingers and whatnot. You just say follow Sonny Bill. You get a lot of second phase play off him. He's always got an arm free. Yeah. Once you're behind that sort of game line, you're in trouble, especially when the All Blacks are playing the way they are.
Well, I think it's a good thing because when someone does something like that, you go, we better try and up our game. You look at you want to be ahead of the opposition at some point. But geez, you got to catch up at some point as well, don't you? And with skills like that, I know it's a great skill, but we just talked about Paddy McCabe doing more training and the Waratahs upskilling with their forward play. It can be done.
It can be, yeah, but he's some of his skills are are very, very rare. He holds the ball like it's a tennis ball, which makes it very easy. And
Huey, how does the National Rugby Championship sit with everybody up in Japan? Is it something that you'd use as a development tool for guys to get a bit of exposure and head back and be better players for Suntory, Panasonic?
Yeah, it's we haven't actually spoken about it, but it's definitely something I've thought about. Just obviously being home now and reading up, reading about more details about the NRC. It could be a possibility where we could eventually send guys over to develop them and get them used to some different rugby. Obviously, I'd be playing for the mighty
North Harbour Rays.
As long as the Marlins are involved there somewhere. The Rays. We had your pictures of the Rays a few weeks ago when we were showing with Ben Whittaker and a lot of celebration shots. It was a pretty good... it just cost too much back then.
I'll always say it was some of the most enjoyable rugby I've ever played.
And it was great to watch too, Pete.
And you're not the only one that... obviously, got some people that have told me watching games with the new rules. We had, new rules involved. It was a great play. It was a good combination between your professional players and your guys that went to work, and it was just a great mix because you understood what they're going through to get to the next level, and it was just some of the most enjoyable rugby on and off the field I've ever been experiencing.
I think Ian Payton from the Telegraph reported over the weekend that something like 42 players from that competition went through to actually play Wallaby rugby. So it was great.
And that's what it's about. Like you speak about the big deals in Europe. You're going to lose your players overseas, but the thing is being able to recover from that. Like you see the All Blacks, they lose some of their best players, but then someone else just steps in, like they were there all the whole time, and that's something we've got to get to. If we lose players, we've got to get that next level pushing, so we don't have that big hole in our system.
So as you can see, the title is Sun Rises 187. That's a play on the land of the rising sun and a son of Eddie, Peter Hewat. Hey? John O'Neill's son was John Eales. Michael Foley's son was, dad was John Connolly. And I don't know. I'm not going to say
Who's
that.
yours, mate?
No, it can't be Link.
Son of Link.
Son of Link. Look out. So that's the reason for the title, and I think Peter wanted to change it, but it took me too long to do the graphics, so I wasn't going to change it before he came in. Mate, it's great to see you here. Another Inverell boy.
Yep. Great to be home.
Rugby's still going strong in Inverell, which is great to see. And country rugby, and the country boys are involved too with the Western what are they called? Greater
Sydney Rams.
Greater Sydney Rams, and Randwick involved there somehow.
New South Wales Country. A link up with New South Wales Country, of course, Bronk.
Yeah.
That's what you said, isn't it?
What do you mean? Now Randwick are involved. I said country.
Did you? Good on you.
Well, did you just switch off or something? Cash cow.
Some coffee in here,
Cash cow,
please.
just tell us briefly about your business again.
Cash Cow Media Solutions, Bronk. If you
Your
need
camera's on the right.
a solution to any sort of media problems, whether it's
Your camera's right to the right.
whether
in
it's
the barrel, mate.
straight down the barrel. If you need a problem to any of your media inquiries, publishing, media management, websites, you name it, I can do it. Good price too, Bronk. I know.
If you guys want any Suntory whiskey or beer,
Where is it?
I'll sort you out.
All right. Is it any good?
Beautiful. Absolutely.
You know when Johnny
beautiful.
Walker Blue, man.
Mate,
I've got a bottle sitting under the desk there, actually.
got some better stuff than that for you, mate.
All right. Okay.
Beautiful whiskey. Suntory.
How's it go with the Coke and the ice?
Beautiful. We don't have more better with Pepsi. Pepsi.
Okay.
Beaver should be
or
on the whiskey
soda.
too.
Soda, whiskey and soda. Beautiful.
Lovely.
Get
Beautiful.
Beaver on the whiskey, mate. It's good. Medically, it's good.
I think he might be off it now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
He didn't mind a beer, Eddie, and so once again, our thoughts are always with Eddie as he recovers from a stroke, and of course Pierre Wepu, who's well, which is stunning. He played 3 games after he had that minor stroke. But I guess a stroke's a stroke, and they found a little hole in his heart, so which led to it. So he'll have surgery, and whether or not he gets on the paddock in a pretty good capacity, we don't know. But the important thing is that he'll be around for the family, so which is great. I was watching some stuff, the vision of him, the TV, New Zealand television, where after the World Cup final in 2011, just a great emotional scenes there. It's like, we wanted to win it, but gee, I'm so happy that they won it because some great heroes of the game.
Bronk, I can remember going to the dinner 36 hours later, and he was still very emotional at that stage too. Absolutely. Right, Pete, great to see you, man.
Thank you very much.
Peter
Great to be
Hewat,
here.
thanks, Hewat.
Thank you very
great
much.
fullback from Inverell, the Waratahs, of course, coaching at Suntory, and I guess they still think of you fondly at London Irish. Do you keep in touch?
Certainly do, yeah. Follow the boys closely. Had a probably tough couple of years, but I'm sure they'll fight back. They've just sort of, club's gone through a little bit of ownership change, so hopefully things will be on the up from now on.
All right, so, and of course, as we mentioned, it's Heineken Cup quarterfinals this weekend, and we're looking forward to seeing that in action, and great to hear that we're almost there with the deal, and the European game is going to be pretty big going forward, big deal. Good to see money going to the players as well. That's important. You do put your bodies on the line, Pete, and still looking pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. Try and do a little bit. I'm on Eddie's program, so
You're not as fit as Matt Dunning, but hey,
I'm on the strider and on the bike, mate. Looking really good.
We'll bring you some pics and an interview with Matt Dunning over the next couple of weeks. Truly extraordinary story, and as Casho alluded to, the difficulties that Matt had in adjusting from playing just to being a punter in the street. It's something that generally the game looks after people with education, but exiting a player from the game is a serious thing to look at.
Agree.
And I think he's really in a good space now, isn't he, Casho?
Yeah, listen, from what he was saying in all our interviews, Bronk, he's in a good place. He looks absolutely tippy top as we've seen him around the place. So,
all right, nothing else you want to plug?
No, that's it.
What about you, mate?
No, I'm
Got your
done.
Adidas kit on?
Yeah, Adidas, always Adidas.
All right, okay. Suntory.
Adidas, very good.
Looking forward to that. And good luck when you go and see the family.
Going to see the family, heading up to Brisbane
Queensland.
tomorrow, so see mum and dad and my sisters, and then off to Hamilton Island for a few days and
Oh, nice.
try and get a bit of sun.
Yeah, you're looking a bit pasty there, mate.
It's just coming out of a Japanese winter, mate. Lots of snow this year.
Very good. All right, there is Peter Hewat joining us here in the studio. Good to see you, mate. Make your way down to Maroubra, all the way from the northern beaches. You stay in the northern beaches?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Always.
Yeah, always. All right, that is it. 187 RuggaMatrix Sunrises. Let's hope that Suntory does Peter Hewat proud next season. That is it for RuggaMatrix International 187. Thanks to Strike and mybean.com.au. Go to their websites to check out your deals. They're pretty good. Until next week, we'll see you in Rugby Land. Land of the Rising Sun.
Arigatou gozaimasu.